All good. Great. All right. And it looks like we have Rosemary
Oh, perfect.
online too. And can we tell if Barbara's here?
I don't.
Okay, I am here.
Hey, Barbara. All right. Welcome everyone. Happy Friday. We have some new members, so we will go around and do more of an introduction than we usually do. This is not the full commission, so we'll probably do this again next time. That's fine. So why don't I start and then I will give you the idea. So my name's Nina. I'm the commission chair, and I've been a member for 2-ish years, almost 3 years. I went to high school in this area and then moved back a few years ago. I am an artist and a creative project manager. I'd love to know your name, either something you are interested in or what you do for work, and something new that you've done recently. And recently can be relative. But yeah, something new you've done. And my something new, not that creative, but I went to Texas recently for the very first time, which was very interesting. It was for work and it was just a very short 2-day trip, but it was really nice to eat dinner outside in January. And my client is a museum there, which is really interesting and fun. Let's go around this way.
Oh, man.
Yes.
Hard hitting questions already. I'm Cody. I've been here, I think I'm on my 2nd year, maybe. What were my questions?
Either what do you do for work or something you're interested in?
Okay, I work in sales for a cybersecurity company. One benefit of that is I actually was in London the last week at a cool place for our annual kickoff. I got to meet the English rugby team, which is kind of cool.
Is that your something new?
That's my something now.
I'm Sam Scapani. I've lived in Bangor for the past 7 years now. I married a brewer boy. So that's how I ended up here. I work in nonprofit communications. And my something new is I started grad school in January.
So that's exciting. What are you going to grad school for?
I'm doing the Stone Coast program in creative writing.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm Jennifer Snow. This is my first meeting and I work in human resources for the County of Penobscot. So right here in Bangor, my family and I have lived here since 2014. We moved out here for my husband for work. And I've been racking my brain for something new because it's January and I don't do new things in January.
It doesn't have to be
But this is new, so that's pretty exciting. And I just, real quick, I joined the Commission on Cultural Development. I work with 10 Bucks Theater. And the commission has always been pretty supportive of us and things like that. And I just thought that this was kind of a way I could give back. So that's me.
Good job.
Thanks.
My name's Cal Elmore. I have been on the commission about 3 years. I'm a retired art teacher. And what I mostly do now is teach art, but not in public school. Something new is this, I got a new treadmill right in my house, so there's no excuses. That's it.
I'm Kelly Snow. I've been here, I think, almost a year now. It's been just about a year. I'm a single parent. My son's getting ready to go to college, so I joined the commission because I wanted to do something for just me and to give back. I'm a musician. I love music. Saved my life. Something new I started doing is like resin art, which I'm not very good at yet.
Mhm.
There's a whole pile of mistakes that I've made already, but it's really cool. I'm really enjoying it, so.
I'm Sarah McClellan. I'm the assistant in the Community and Economic Development Department, and part of the staff support for the commission. My something new is not going to be terribly creative, because we already talked about it, but I just recently became a fully licensed EMT in the state of Maine.
I'm Ann Krieg. I'm the Director of Community and Economic Development for the city. And I see the work of the Cultural Commission as are the anchors of what supports economic development for the city. And my new thing is it's my I've started January 1st taking time to watch the sunrise. I get up before the sun to get here, you know, to do my stuff in the morning before getting to work. And now I stop and watch the sunrise.
Oh, nice.
It was beautiful yesterday.
And
Before the
it's-
snow,
This
yeah.
morning was
Mhm.
incredible.
Yeah.
Day after storm, it's always amazing.
Should we go to Zoom or do you want?
Let's do you and then Zoom.
Okay. Hi, I'm Holly Adams. I'm the vice chair of the commission. I'm a writer and an English professor at the University of Maine in Orono. My something new is that I've gotten really into making soup. It's new for me. Just make soup every week.
Let's do Barbara and then Rosemary.
Okay, I'm Barbara McDade, and I'm the retired director of the Bangor Public Library. I'm also a church organist, so I love music. I guess my new thing is I'm not a new quilter, but I've been trying to do this quilt, and finally it just wasn't going together right. So taking it apart, I guess, is my new thing. Because my husband looked at it and looked at the pattern, and he said, "You did this all in mirror image." So I have to take it out and put it together right.
Thank you. And Rosemary?
Hi, I'm Rosemary. I was born and raised in Bangor. I moved away from college and then came back. I work as a digital content specialist at UMaine, and I also teach at the yoga studio in downtown Bangor at Homeland. Sort of a newer thing I've been doing in the past year is learning how to ski.
All right, great, thanks, everyone. For those on Zoom, if you've been in the room before, you know, we look at the screen on the wall so we can see your face, but that means you can't see us looking at you because the camera's in the middle of our table, so it feels a little awkward. So try to look at the camera if you're talking to someone on the screen. Perfect, so I don't have much of a report this month. We are waiting on some staff updates, which, as you can see on the agenda, is not a short list. And so we will have some other meetings and committee things coming up in the next month or two. Not much happened in January because it's cold. Great. Any questions? Financial report.
We need to pass the minutes.
Oh, minutes. I missed them. Thank you. Yep. Meeting minutes. Any questions on last month's meeting minutes?
A motion to pass them as written.
Second.
All in favor? Anytime we have to pass something, someone has to motion, then someone seconds, and then everybody can vote. And it goes pretty quick, usually, and we don't have to vote on everything. Like the financial report, we just discuss if there are questions. We don't have to approve it. So, are there any questions? Great, I think we'll come back to some of the details. What's some of the updates later? Committee reports. I would also expect there to not be that much. Grant committee?
Yeah, do you want me to
Yeah.
talk about what the grant committee is for
Let's
the
do
new
that.
football?
Yes.
Sure. So we have three standing subcommittees, and the expectation is that all commissioners join at least one. But you can choose of the three, and one of those committees is the grants committee, and I'm the chair of the grants committee. We have two grant cycles every year, one in the spring and then one in the fall. So the deadlines are April 1st, November 1st. Yep, yes. And institutions, cultural, artistic institutions or individuals can apply for an artist grant. We have $20,000 allocated from the city to disperse to applicants. So the grants committee does an initial vetting of the applications to ensure eligibility, see if there are any missing pieces from those applications, makes recommendations, and then brings it to the full commission for discussion and voting, and we invite the applicants to those meetings. So if the deadline is April 1st, we're probably inviting the applicants to our May meeting for follow-up questions and discussion. And then afterwards, the commission will vote and decide how to divvy up the funds. We usually have more requested than we have available. So I wanted to wait until the new members joined us, so welcome, to call the first meeting of the grants committee in case you wanted to join that committee, no pressure. But one thing we're gonna be discussing before our April 1st deadline is whether we would like to move to a once a year deadline rather than having the 2 cycles, because we found that it's led to some imbalance in how we distribute the funds, that the November deadline is first in our fiscal year. And so we have the full $20,000 allotment in November, and we get a lot of, wonderful requests. So we tend to fund them more heavily on the fall cycle, and then we're left with not as much for the spring, and then we get typically just as strong of requests and we have less funding. So one model we can move to is once a year, everyone needs to get their application in at the same time so that we're comparing everyone at once, so that everyone has a fair shot and isn't saying, oh, I got to get in the fall cycle because the spring will be, there'll be less money. But another option is to split it down the middle and be very firm that we're doing 10,000, 10,000. So that's something the grants committee will be discussing in advance of the April 1st deadline. So I'll be sending around a call to join the committee should anyone wish, and then asking for people's availability to have a first meeting. And the subcommittees meet here, usually in a smaller conference room. And usually, depending on people's availability, often at this same time, but on a different week, tend to work for people since it seems like we're all available Friday mornings at 8:30. So keep an eye out for a call for a grants committee meeting.
Any questions about grants from our new members?
What if I have a question?
Oh, you are also allowed to ask a question.
Moving to 1 time a year instead of 2, is that something we would theoretically do this year, or we would talk about it and set it up for next year?
I think we'd have to set it up for next year because April's actually our second of the year. So we're coming up on the end of the fiscal year. So we really only have $8,000 left. So to say everybody get in for $8,000.
Yeah, it's
I think we'd have to say next November 1st, it's gonna be the one of the year.
Yep.
And we'd obviously want all the institutions and individuals in Bangor who typically apply to these grants to have some forewarning. Yeah, I think it would move to next year.
Yeah, I think we'd want to reach out to our past, 4 or 5 years of applicants specifically to let them know that it's changing, as well as just making sure that all the communication is up to date.
Yeah, and something, we might want to do as a grants committee is reach out to cultural organizations who typically apply, like the Penobscot Theater, the BSO, et cetera, and ask if they want to weigh in on whether a once a year model would work. So one concern I have, and the grants committee can talk about this later, is whether having the one deadline, if all the organizations would know in advance, all their programming would know oh, we know what plays we need to have funded, let's say the Penobscot Theater by November 1st. And probably, they are scheduling way out, but these smaller institutions or organizations, are they gonna know everything they need funding for the year, that far in advance? Whereas with the 2 cycles, if they don't know by November that they're gonna need money, maybe they know in April. Because we can't retroactively fund things, so something we can talk about as the grants committee.
I think something to consider also then is asking them if November is the right month for it. Assuming we would maybe have some flexibility in selecting which month we set as the deadline.
Yeah.
Knowing that the deadline is 1 month, then there's the discussion the next month and our decision, and then it goes to city council, and so funds aren't dispersed for about 2.5 months after the deadline. So that's all just something to consider. Great. Other questions? Okay. All right. Barbara, would you like to talk about the Cultural Asset Committee a little bit?
I will try. Generally, the Cultural Asset Committee does two main things. The first is keeping a list of all the cultural assets of the city, the parks, the statues, the historic places, and even businesses, galleries and things like that. And if it's city-owned, keeping a track on if it needs to be repaired or what kind of shape it's in. The second part is we have developed online storyboards. And we were supposed to several years ago, and we have never finished it, done kind of a game that everyone could participate in, kind of like geocaching, find these things in the city. So those are things that should get done at some point in time. Both another survey of our cultural assets, making sure that we have them all listed, and doing another visit of them to see how they are, and then to do more storyboards, edit what we have on the website now, and develop other ones if they're needed.
Any questions?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So with those storyboards, when we make them, do we just like push them to the city and they publish everything, or how does that work?
Yes.
We'll talk in slightly more detail about that further down.
Okay.
The Cultural Asset Committee is gonna get a training for how to update some of that. Something that's been in the works for a little while. Cool. Yeah. I'd love to also talk to the humane history class that was working on the plaques for the Kenduskeag to see if we can incorporate that into the story maps, right? That would be cool. Great. And then I will talk about October. Sundance is our chair this year. He's not here today. I was the chair last year. October is one of the committees that meets slightly more frequently as we get closer to October, which is of course the month of October. They, as a committee, run the call for nominations for the Bangor Arts Award, which is a $1,000 award we give every year. This will be its 4th year, right?
Yes,
Fourth?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Fourth.
Yeah.
We invite several members of our community to be jurors for the Arts Award, including one committee member. And so that happens usually, it gets posted in July. The nominations are due in August so that we have time to create a gift and also plan an event for the beginning of October. And so the October committee both does the Bangor Arts Award coordination and planning the October kickoff event. Last year we did an event at Chimera, which I felt was very well attended. It was really fun. And we're looking at ideas and options for this year. We like to try to have it in different locations every year so that we can highlight some of the great local businesses who care about art in town. The year before we had it at the Penobscot Theater. Always open to ideas. We might meet sometime this spring, but it usually isn't more condensed work until about June or July. Related to that, somewhat. In the spring, we submit our budget for next year to the city. And part of that budget, we kind of call out a special October budget. And so we sometimes don't know what's approved until May, June. And so we don't want to plan too much and how much money we're going to spend until we know for sure how much money we have. And so somewhat separately, for the past several years, we've been working on a printed calendar project that has stalled a few times, but we do have an ad hoc calendar committee, I guess is what we've called it. And I'd love to reconvene that sometime this spring to talk about budget planning and see what we can request from the city this year. We sort of keep trying to request a certain amount to try to make this project happen. Several citizens in town have come to different commission members in the past and asked why this doesn't exist. People don't seem to learn about events until after they've happened, when the paper writes about it. And there are lots of ways online to find out what happens, and more each year, but people who don't have as much access to digital means or just are not as internet savvy might not be hearing about things that they would like to attend. So that's something that we're still working on. It's not dead yet. I'm not giving up. But it's taken some work. So any ideas are welcome there too. And I will, again, put out a full email to all the members when we have a meeting for that to see if anybody's interested in joining. Any October questions? No. Good. All right.
I have a quick question
Yeah.
about the committees.
Yeah.
Are any of the committees more in need of members
Mhm.
than others?
Good question. I would say the Cultural Asset Committee has the fewest members. It also meets the least frequently. So it's probably like the lowest effort. But it's still. It has
That
the lowest-
depends what we do.
Oh, Barbara has some big ideas this year.
Yeah, I was gonna say, they could meet more.
Yeah. And then, right, Grants Committee currently meets once or twice around grant deadline time. Or if we or they, the committee or the commission, decide that we want to make changes to the application or anything like that, then we meet slightly more frequently. But that's sort of a twice a year cycle at the moment, and then October kind of ramps up between July and October.
And October's probably the most work,
Yeah. I
but
think
in a more condensed time.
Yeah.
And so I think that committee could use all the help it could get. Like, I don't think, I mean, grants committee, I think, can run really well with, say, 4 people. And October could, but the more help, the better.
Yeah.
But we could get a list maybe somewhere after maybe this meeting and once new people join committees, because I've kind of lost track of who's on which committee.
Yeah. I
You
wrote
were
it
kind
down
of maybe,
somewhere, but
yeah, last meeting, I think you were writing it down.
And I was going to say, in the past, I know I just became Cultural Asset Committee Chair, but I was on it in past years. It can be not real intensive, but we really do like to visit every asset and see it. And we have not done that inventory in a couple of years. And the storyboards is intensive if we start doing a new one. So it is exciting. It is a good committee, and I don't want to scare people away, but it's not nothing.
Thank you.
I think Betsy has something.
Hi, sorry to interject, but I happened to be the liaison the last time we did a major one, and one thing that we did was get approval from the council for additional funding to hire an outside contractor, which was actually a student from one of Liam's classes that was a graduate student who was able to come and do it. And so that, like, the original list that we started with was about 20 different assets, and you can see now the list is much more extensive because
Yeah, just because we're.
yeah, so you know, so it wasn't very much money at all because it was paying an intern basically. And we got like updated photos. They did a lot of historical research. You know, so a lot of that stuff is still standing and it wouldn't be as heavy a lift, but it might be helpful. And there's probably somebody at the university who would be really interested in taking on the project. And then the other thing is, so we also did the story, well, the ArcGIS tracking and the story maps in relationship to that. But I will say that for the organization Downtown Bangor Partnership, we recently shifted over to something called the Proxy Map, which is a little bit more user-friendly and it allows things like gamification, which is a big thing. And if we do have I want to say 15-point, you know, interactive map already of some of the like highlights of the arts assets. And so it might be an opportunity to expand, you know, that, because the story map is cool, but we found it to be a lot more cumbersome to try to program and make happen and requires a lot more specialty. Whereas Proxy Map is like really written for like people like you and I who know nothing and like can just, or maybe some of you know ArcGIS, I don't know, can just like pop it on there and make it happen really easily.
So I certainly don't want to duplicate anything that's already done, and especially if it's easier. So we need to work with that.
Yeah. Great. I'll go back to my corner.
I mean, you're welcome to stay. In fact, actually, Betsy, are you joining to speak to something specific?
The Bangor letters.
Let's do that now then.
Yeah.
Since you're here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so this is a project that was started a while ago and it shelved it and kind of took it off the shelf last year to get it going again. And that is to create sort of a lighted art of the letters Bangor at the corner of State and Harlow in that little green space area. I've seen it done and when I was in St. Paul. I know Toronto has it as well. I mean, a lot of cities use it sort of as a marketing, piece to put in their downtown area. And the Business and Economic Development Committee reviewed it. There were some concerns about, you know, whether this is like, if it's a good idea to put this like in a historic area. There were concerns about using we're proposing to use TIF funds, which is funds that are dedicated to downtown projects for this purpose. And so as part of the cultural arts policy, actually any art in public spaces has to come to this commission for your input. So so we're asking for your input. Betsy had worked on the project. Actually, you started it as a staff person in this department. So yeah.
Yeah, and I will say also, after I was I was not anticipating like pushback on it, because like for me, I'm always like, yeah, that's awesome, you know, but so after that, I started trying to reach out to different organizations in downtown to get letters of support, and we do have some coming from Bangor Art Society, from Bangor Historical Society, who else? There's a couple of businesses that are in the area because, you know, downtown Bangor really follows the map of the Arts and Culture District, and that particular corner of downtown has been highly developed in the last few years in terms of like an increased amount of residential and business development. And so having a marker like that in that corner, I think would really kick off that corner just a little bit more. And you know, again, getting back to that proxy map project of things, like one of our goals is to get gateway signage into the proxy map at each of the locations, so that like you see the big lit letters and you're like, oh, that's cool. But then there's like a sign there with a QR code that can pull you into a map and take you around to these other cultural assets. So it's really kind of, I think it would serve as a great kind of entry point for people who might not otherwise know about all the other assets that are down here.
I'm wondering about concerns about vandalism.
it's we have an incredible amount of arts assets and that's, the Victory statue has been vandalized several times in, Norumbega Parkway. It happens, it's part of the urban landscape and, that's truly one of the major goals of the asset survey is like, monitoring the condition. I think no matter what you put out, that's always something that you're guarding against, but it's, not a reason to not have it.
It was hard to tell from the write-up, but, I imagine they would be conscientious about sturdy materials and making it hard to.
Yeah, that's one of the follow-up we'll talk to the vendors about. Is there a material that, nothing is vandal free, but just that could be washed or, how does that work?
Like the umbrella benches, for example, have an anti-graffiti coating on them. So it makes it harder to vandalize it, but then also makes it easier to remove if it's on there.
Yeah.
Looks cool.
And is there budget included for cleaning?
Yeah. The cleaning, yeah.
It becomes either Parks and Rec or Public Works, yes?
Yeah. one of the
Depending on what
two.
that's
I
designated
think it'll
as.
be Public Works just because of the location. I don't think that's a notice. I don't think that's a park on the park list.
Yeah.
I think it's a great location.
Yeah.
Like having the B mural
Mhm.
visible behind it, and there's not much in that little like parquet or whatever we're calling it, the green
Right.
space, and it's, yeah, I think it's a great location, and there's like so much, in, like the central square, market, whatever that square is, and like to pull a little focus towards that end of downtown, I think is nice.
Great.
My kid, every time we drive by the bee mural goes, oh, look, it's the bees. Great. Cool. Any other questions? What's the timeline?
I'm gonna go to Historic Preservation Commission's meeting next week. To get their input, and then I'll go back to Business and Economic Development. With your comments, and any action you take and the Preservation Commissions, and then we'll go from there.
And in our packet, there, I think, looks like two different options, one with visible lights and one solid letters, and then two different typefaces.
Correct.
Is there one that's the preferred
I
or?
would love to get your input on it. One of the aspects that we wanted to be able to do is to change the color, like for, for different months, like today's Wear Red Day.
Yeah, like
It's,
the Prudential.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
To be able to change it for different events like that.
If you, for those of you who have computers, if you like Google Toronto letters, like you'll see what that closed face lighting looks like. How cool is that, right? Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And theirs are bigger and taller, but they're also like $3 million.
That's what I was gonna say,
Also
like,
bigger city.
yeah, the person is larger than the letter, so it's not gonna be like quite the same
Yeah.
effect, yeah.
I like the colors option. I think that would be really cool. It
Okay.
also would,
To be able to change out. the
yeah,
colors.
to be able to like celebrate different things.
Yeah.
And to keep people coming back to it as opposed to like, oh yeah, I've taken a selfie in front of it. I'm good.
Yeah.
Personally, I like the thicker font,
Me
but
too.
that's just this one versus this one. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and the like angle of the B.
Mhm. I like the A and the thicker font too, yeah.
It looks like with the thicker font, maybe I'm wrong, but they seem harder to climb in and on than the thinner, where like you could
Yeah.
Oh, that's a
get
good
in
point.
there, like in the O for sure. I don't know if that's a concern.
It's worth asking if you can, like, I know the Toronto letters, you can kind of like, I've seen some cute pictures of people like in the O, like lounging,
Yeah, so maybe that's
But
a
I don't
draw.
know.
Maybe you want thinner letters on so people can get in.
Those Toronto letters are huge,
Or-
right?
Yeah, they're huge.
Yes,
The
they are.
Instagram photo, right?
Yes. Yeah, the Toronto ones are, and those are actually replacement letters, and it was like a big thing even in Toronto because the budget was gonna be so high to redo them. But they decided that it was just so important and brought them so much attention that it was 100% worth finding the money for it.
There have been cities that have done projects like this where it has not been good. Detroit, I know, did. So I think this is a great idea, and I think I like the budget is what I'm saying, because I have seen reports from other cities who've like tried to do the same kind of thing where like the budget has gotten out of control and like people got pissed and the letters were ugly, but I am generally in support of what I'm seeing on my packet.
Well, I would like then to make a motion that we do support this project with the thicker letters.
Is
Yeah.
there a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Cool. Anyone in favor? It's not technically a vote. Right.
Is this motion like we only support the thicker letters?
No, I would be willing just to say we support it.
Yeah, because I'm kind of open and
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
the letters end up being better,
yeah. I
Motion
will
amendment.
amend my motion to say that we support the project.
Great.
I'll second it.
Anyone in favor? All right. Cool. Thanks, Betsy.
Thank you. Thank you, Betsy.
All right, we have the list of other staff updates.
Yes, the other, I did go to, an information session on the Maine Arts Commission, grant applications, and, it looks like there's a lot of interest in it. I don't know if the commission wants to put in for funds. I mean, you can. And staff can help, craft a application. I do have to get permission from Business and Economic Development Committee, which, I can do at their next meeting. So it's up to you if you want to pursue, a public art piece or an outreach piece. That's.
Did it seem like there's a grant with a spring-ish deadline that might be applicable for our calendar project?
The deadline is the end of this month.
Oh, okay,
So,
cool.
yeah, I mean, the application is pretty easy to pull together. It's just a matter of what it is that you want to do. And then,
And I know, Sarah, you had wanted to follow up with the grant writer for the
Yeah,
city, if we need to go through them, or if we can submit something and have them take a look, or like what the process is from the city. If there's anything
yeah, I
official
mean,
there.
he said that he would assist us.
yeah, he definitely can assist, but there's also no requirement
Okay,
that you do that. So if you guys are able to and willing to, do as much of the legwork on it as possible, that's great, but he's also available for assistance.
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So why don't I take a look at that?
You already did a whole lot of legwork. That's
Right, we have a lot of information and quotes and budgets
Right.
already,
So
so
you've done a lot.
I don't think it would take that much time to pull an application together.
Yeah,
So I can take a look at what the actual application requirements are and touch base with everyone and see if.
yeah. Maybe you and I could sit down next week. Cause the next Business and Economic Development Committee is, let's see, like the 19th. So, and next week will be packet, so, yeah.
Okay.
We should try to find a time.
Yeah.
To chat.
Cool.
Yeah.
Canoe sculpture plaque.
I don't have an update on that.
I do.
Oh, you do?
Sorry.
Good.
Yes.
I'm glad, cause I'm like. oh.
Yeah, so most of the rest of this list is just really quick updates that I
Okay.
have for you guys. So I talked to Tracy, to make sure that, the correction to the plaque is still being done. He has placed the order with the company that they use. He just hasn't yet received an actual ETA on it. But the order is placed for the corrected plaque, and he will keep us posted once he knows what the timeline will actually be. And we'll make sure we get the artists and their family involved.
Should we maybe send the artist an update that says, hey, just so you know, the order's been placed, it's in progress? 'Cause it's
Yeah,
been so
I'll check with
long.
Tracy. I'm not sure if he maybe already did
Okay.
that, so I'll check with him.
Cool, thanks.
On the GIS access and training for the Cultural Asset Committee. So for those of you who don't know, we have a new GIS tech for the city. His name's John Miller. And I spoke with him a couple weeks ago about the story maps and GIS for you guys. And he is very, very willing to come to an asset committee meeting and do a training. So when the asset committee decides when they would like to do that, just let me know and I'll coordinate on the staff end. But he's very willing to help. So
Great.
Any questions on that or?
Barbara, any questions?
Well, my question is, should we just do away with the GIS and go with downtown Bangor with Betsy? I don't know. I would like to see. I'm sorry, I wasn't aware of their project. So I don't see that we need to duplicate everything.
I think one concern is that if and you're welcome to come back to the table if you'd like, but if the Downtown Bangor Partnership map only shows highlights and our map shows a more comprehensive list, then I don't know that it just linking out to the Downtown Bangor Partnership is the right move yet. But if we can maybe work together to either add more to your list, and I'm looking at that.
I think there's a couple options. So like with the existing GIS map that you have, it is really comprehensive, right? It includes like performance spaces and things like that. Obviously, all that can transfer over to a proxy map as well. But you could think of like one as being like the place where there's just kind of an inventory, right? And the other one, because I think the harder part with the GIS map from my experience is creating the story maps in a way that look really good. Like you kind of need somebody who really knows GIS for it to look good. But they look really good when they're done well, you know, like there's like when you go on their website and you look at sample story maps, they're incredible. So that's cool. But you know, and then you could use the proxy map to create, like you could just have, you know, kind of like your actual like art stuff or like an architecture walk or things like that. You can pull things out of the GIS map and into the proxy map, which maybe feels a little bit like a duplication of effort, but it really isn't, because it is so simple to do the proxy map and you copy over the information, but it's almost like the overall GIS map that you have already is very like almost like technical and, you know, like it's a working document for keeping track of, you know, history and details. And I think it's a really great asset to have all of that information. And I know that this, you know, this is like a city thing. And so it keeps the documentation of the history of like when it was made and, you know, who donated the money and all that kind of stuff, like in an archive within the city files for you guys. And then you can pull, or we can pull things, because that's kind of what I do is I just pull things out of there that I want and add it to the proxy map.
And since we now have a staffer who focuses on the GIS, it looks like maybe it's the right time to just spend a little more time on that and beef it up a little if we can, or at least make sure it's current.
I was going to say it definitely needs to be updated because there's so much more that we have.
Yeah, maybe we stick with that project first, and then we can see if there's capacity to make more of an interactive game or map, and we can use proxy map or something else for
That
that.
could be a really cool, the other thing is it's like a really cool feature for things like Arttober, that you can put the events on the, you know, events and locate like events and items, you know, that you want to highlight during the month of October, and you can have like an interactive Arttober map. And there's even an opportunity to create print maps out of the, so that there's a lot of things with it, and I'm happy to, you know, come back another time and like talk more about, you know, ways that we've envisioned using it, but you're welcome to like poke around too. And again, on their website, they have tons of like samples that you can look at.
Cool. That's a good idea too for October. We have been making a printed map that's custom illustrated. And so we've been talking, we've made some updates each year, but sometimes when you print something, it's out of date right away.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and then you can put that like QR code on the bottom that says, you know, for the most up-to-date information or to learn more about, you know, and it can pull you into
mhm.
you know, a dynamically updatable environment.
And right, if we're putting effort into updating things that the commission owns on the website and want to make sure that people actually see it. Cool. Barbara, any other questions?
No, I will try to get a meeting in February that we can start work.
Who else is in that commission?
Me,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think that's it.
I haven't been to a meeting yet, but
I'll join that one.
Cool.
Oh, great.
Thanks.
And I will say too, like with the GIS, one of the really neat things that Pat did for us back when we made that first map was he can create like a kind of subcontractor app for you. And then you can put it on your phone and you're literally just like stand in front of it and like click the point, you know, and like you can add in some amount of information there and then it gets like dumped into the spreadsheet and you can go back and, you know, to the computer and like update, you know, do a little history. That's kind of how our intern did it, like do a little history research and find out, or even if you're just like out walking about and you notice there's some vandalism or something, you can kind of like tag it on there, you know? So.
Cool. Thank you.
The Pickering Square art installation, I don't really have a update per se on that, but I did just want to note that I did include the specs for that installation in your packets, because I know that was one of the kind of lingering items that you were just hoping to have. And I don't know if that will sort of factor into like the budget discussion at all, or.
Yeah, I'll talk to Jeff, because
Yeah.
we're both doing our budgets right now, so.
Yeah. But I did at least want you guys to have the specs so you can see
Yeah.
what that might look like.
I think our one, or at least my one open question on this, that I don't think the specs answer is whether the space is waterproof. Like,
Oh.
if something is in there displayed, is it protected from the elements? It does look like there's a glass or plexi in front of it, but like,
That is a great.
is the top of it waterproof?
I think we did.
And that would then kind of limit or not limit what types of materials we would encourage people to install. And it looks like it's metal. So I guess if it's like, you could put paper or fabric up with magnets potentially, but like what else is there? And then this might get answered here, but how deep is the space when the door closes? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cause it's only, it looks like it's 3 inches thick in total, but
But that doesn't answer, right? Like
Yeah,
how
but-
much depth of space is there when something is hanging? Like how
Right.
thick could you put a canvas in there that's 2 inches thick or not, or like a wood panel?
And who would have access to it in order to display things? Who does that?
For
Like-
the,
Like who would put work in there? Who has the
Oh,
key, assuming it
it
locks?
probably will be, either Public Works or engineering.
Okay, so we will work on getting those questions answered. Anything else on that?
I think both of those questions will help us figure out
Okay,
what sort of a length of install time we might want to put in an RFP.
Yeah.
And then I do think, right, a budget question is also like, right, is there a stipend that's associated with displaying your work in this space?
So I guess that's kind of a good segue in terms of RFPs. So hopefully everyone saw in the packet that the RFP for the public restroom art has officially gone out. So I did include a full copy of that in your packets. And the, I think the closing date we put on here is end of next week. I haven't actually received any bids yet, but we will.
When did it go live?
It was posted last Thursday or Friday, I think.
Thursday, the 30th.
Yeah, the 30th.
With a due date of?
Oh, I'm sorry, the 26th
26th.
is for submissions. Sorry, I read the dates wrong.
There's a question deadline and then you will
Yeah.
post responses by the 21st.
Yeah,
And
Have you
that's,
received any questions?
and this has just gone on the website or?
it's on the website. It's been advertised in the Bangor Daily News. And I haven't received a response yet, because I actually just thought this morning to send the email and ask about it. But I did send an email to, our social media person about whether this has been posted on social media or can be.
Yeah.
Can we also send it to? I want to send it to the high schools. Like I want the art teachers to know
Ooh.
about this specifically.
Yep.
But do we have like a list of local high school art teachers? I just know the ones that I know.
I can help.
We could probably get it
Yeah.
off their website too.
Because I feel like
unless you
a
know
direct outreach saying,
Yeah,
hey, just letting you know this is happening. We'd love students or teachers and students to
Yeah.
participate in this if.
And
there's
definitely
interest.
push it out on your sites as well to artists, so.
Is there any potential for extending this due date? So I'm feeling like the 26th is coming quickly.
If the commission feels like, once they do come in, because we can't really change it now. But if the submissions, you have the right to reject submissions and ask the council to put it back out. So if you feel like you didn't get
If we don't get,
adequate,
but what if we don't get any?
right.
Is
then
it
we would
easier
put
to
it back
just
out.
extend it,
Then
or would we
yes,
have to
no,
put it out?
we put it back out.
That's his.
yeah.
I was
Yes,
just gonna say,
please.
like, we have an email list of about 400 different artists that we'll send it out to.
Okay, good.
And I'll also send it to Bangor Art Society. And I can put it in the.
That's great, thank you.
The other quick thing on that, that I just wanted to note, that just relates to your finances for this year. It's not a huge amount of money, but the advertisement costs $104. So just that, I didn't have that figure yet when I put together your financial report for today. But that 104 will be taken out of your regular commission funds.
Is that for the posting it in the BDN?
Yeah, that's just the newspaper
Okay.
ad. Yep.
Just have one question.
Yeah.
If you do, put it on social media, if you could let us know, share it right from there. That would
Yeah.
be great.
I will get, once I hear back from, our social media person, I will get that out to everybody.
All right, thank you.
link to where it is on the website too?
Yeah, so, it's, I feel like it was in the,
Yeah. It's,
Is it in the
I
packet?
think it is.
It's in the
It says-
packet. Oh, the link, yeah, bangormaine.gov/proposals.
Okay.
and I think the proposals link is one of the like main ones on the homepage of the website. So yeah. But I can definitely send that to you if you want it. If we're good with that for the time being, then I also just shared a email update from Marilee Schoen on her art installation that was funded with the spring grant cycle from last year. So, she, in summary, has just run into a few snags in terms of finding an actual space for it. But it's still in progress. I did confirm with her that she does have a deadline for actually making use of the funds. She will need to have her expenses submitted to me for reimbursement by May of this year in order for it to still count for last year. But it sounds like it still is going forward. We're still counting that $300 as most likely coming out. And I think the only other thing I had on here was website updates, and then we were going to talk about the budget. So I did make the one correction we found last time, that the meeting date and time was wrong on the Cultural Commission page for the website, so that has been fixed. But I don't know if, you know, it's a bigger discussion, but if there's other things that you guys want to talk about, you know, making sure are highlighted a little bit better on your page, we can certainly talk about that. We have to keep things relatively uniform on the city website, so they can't get too creative, but if there's just specific pieces of information that you want better highlighted, I can definitely work on that for you.
Great. Because we have only 3 minutes left, why don't we do this as homework for next month? If all the commissioners could just take a look at our section of the website, and see if there's anything that you would like to change, anything that should be updated, then we can discuss.
Oh, okay, mine doesn't, it doesn't work on a tablet, okay.
Yeah, so we've got a few things. There's also an Artober specific page, and we have the Arts Award winners on there now. So there's a couple of pages that are connected to our kind of section, and we can, everybody can take a look at it, then we can see what edits we need to make. Thank you.
So for your budget next year, we're doing budgets now, the deadlines got pushed up a little bit, so. I know that the group previously had talked about asking for an increase in the grant. Do you know what number you want me to put in for that?
I mean, I could say a number,
Yeah.
yes.
Write it on a piece of paper, slide it.
Right? I mean, and I think I worry a little bit that if we ask for too much more, they would just say no. They couldn't not give anything, right? They could just say, or I'm a little concerned, you know, like
Yeah.
if we ask for 30, would they then say no and not give anything? Or would they just give 20, which is what we've been getting? Or if we ask for 25, is that more likely?
Yeah, it's hard to guarantee. There's, you know, there are new counselors this year. So I can't really gauge.
Yeah. My initial thinking was 25. I think we've tried to gather information about what the total ask has been the past several years, and I don't think we've found the numbers.
Yeah, one thing we asked at last meeting was how long has it been at 20?
Yeah.
Right,
Oh.
because if it's been at
Wow.
20,000 for the past 15 years, like if we think of inflation and cost of materials and what have you, I think we have a stronger case to raise it.
Yeah.
Or to ask.
I think
for
it has been that way for a long time, don't you? Yeah. At 20.
I know Laverne
I don't
had said
know.
that. She's been here a real long time.
Right.
She's not with us anymore, but she had been here for a very long time, and so it's been the same for a very.
She's not a commissioner anymore.
No, I can, she's still with us. Sorry, I didn't mean
I
that.
just saw her say it.
Yeah.
It's definitely been 20 since before 2015.
Okay, great.
So for 10 years.
Yeah, and it
So-
might have always been 20.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
There were ways in which the commission kind of sort of had more money, like via, when the American Folk Festival was here, like that money was technically, I think, filtered through here. And that amount went up and down over time. I'm trying to remember, there was a year that Mary Budd cited that budget, and I do think it was like around like 2015, and she was talking about like how much money went into that in the past, and
I'd like to ask for at least 25
Okay.
for grants specifically.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
costs have gone up, demand is high.
I'd like to keep the October ask at 2,500 at least,
Okay,
also. So we did spend right around that,
Mhm.
and I think that was successful last year.
okay,
And then I will call a calendar meeting and I'll take a look at the grant and maybe we can figure out a city match separate budget, something,
Mhm.
or if we get a grant.
And Betsy, when you had a university student do the initial survey of the cultural assets, did you pay that person out of this budget?
We actually went to Business and Economic Development Committee and asked for separate money for that project. I mean, you could definitely, especially because I think at that time we asked for $1,250 for the kind of documentation part and then another $1,250, so it was $2,500 total to create a couple of story maps out of it, and those were kind of the original ones. And I think it's a whole lot less work than it was that first time around.
Yes.
So you probably wouldn't even need $1,000 to get a university student to do it.
Dina, could we put that in the budget too?
Yeah. I mean, right, I think it's worth asking for all the things.
Mhm.
As long as we're not jeopardizing
Base.
the base, the grant money.
It's unlikely they would punish you for asking, isn't
Right.
it?
I would
Right?
hope
They wouldn't
so.
say, oh, well, I don't like that you asked me for that, so I'm gonna give you less. That's unlikely, right? Never know.
Right,
Yeah, Gage.
Another idea too is that sometimes if you're putting it in the budget for next year, right, they're looking at your like total number that you're asking for. And I think when we actually did it, we didn't actually ask for it as part of the budget. We waited kind of towards the end of the year and Tanya evaluated like how much business and economic development funds were kind of remaining in the pool. I don't know if you guys are, and that changes every year, but like
Yeah.
there just happened to be money left in the pool and we were able to say, hey, can we use some of this for that? So it was kind of more like scooping up leftovers than it was like asking to be allocated.
Mhm.
is there a way for us to look at budgets and spend and?
This year, the department budget probably will not have excess funds, so, I mean, there are years where we have had that, but this year won't be one of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, but, I could put in for, do you want 15? I mean, what do you want for that work? A university intern?
I mean, also given that university costs have risen, I would say exponentially. I think 2,000 is a nice stipend for a university student.
Yep.
To make it worth doing some work.
Yep.
I'm not sure if we go less than 1,000, if any student would be willing to spend the time.
Okay.
Right. But that's, all of these numbers are random numbers off the top of my head.
It's okay.
If we're gonna meet next week, maybe we can take another look at that.
Yeah.
And then I can update.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Absolutely.
Okay. Cool. Any other things we need budget for? Any other questions? Or updates? All right. If you haven't seen Dial M for Murder yet, go to the theater. It's really fun. That's it. I adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Bye, Rosemary and Barbara.
Bye.